Hi, I'm Terry Brock with TerryBrock.com reporting for business journals. You know what excitement there comes when the UPS driver brings a package. You're going, oh yeah, it's always fun to see that wonderful person in the brown van that's coming in giving us good things. Well, guess what those folks at UPS are up to now? 3D printing. Now, when I first saw that as a reporter and they're saying, hey, UPS is in 3D print, I thought, why would they do that? I don't understand. They deliver packages, do a great job of that, but 3D printing, well, I'll tell you what, I had a chance to talk with Alan Amling. He's a vice president at UPS in logistics and distribution. He knows this stuff, and he's a fabulous guy, too. Wait till you see the interview. He is just a fun guy to talk to and to get a chance to be around and to learn what they are doing. You see, what they're doing is what your business needs to do also. They're looking ahead down the road, realizing, okay, it's in its infancy right now with 3D printing, and here's where it's going. So you want to watch this, not only for what's happening in 3D printing. You'll see what is happening there, but how to think about, okay, what are you going to do on those disruptions, those innovative types of applications that are coming out for you? This is a fabulous interview. You want to sit down and watch it, not just for the 3D printing. I mean, that part alone is great, but you want to see it for your business as I talk with Alan Amling of UPS. Disruption is something we see happening in many different industries, and one of those tools that's disrupting a lot is 3D printing. You probably heard of it, and you know it's a different kind of printing, not from your printer, but it does have an additive function to it. It's the additive manufacturing that we call it, and we're going to find out some wonderful information today of what's going on, that cutting edge ideas. I'm going to be talking with Alan Amling. He is the Vice President of Marketing for UPS Logistics and Distribution, and Alan joins us from his offices up there in Atlanta, Georgia. Alan, thank you very much for being with us today.
All right, thanks for having me.
Well, I understand 3D printing is changing a lot right now, and I see UPS as that wonderful company that, frankly, just personally, I love seeing the UPS driver come in that brown truck, and there's always something really good there. You know, it's like, and when he gives me one of the little boxes or whatever it is, always nice to get that. And so I think of UPS and logistics, you're moving things around. What does that have to do with 3D printing, where I know UPS is really on a cutting edge and leading in that industry?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And the way we look at it is 3D printing is a supply chain disruptor. Supply chain is what we do. We're more than delivering the packages to your doorsteps. We run global distribution networks in aerospace, in healthcare, in retail. And we really think that 3D printing is going to disrupt that manufacturing supply chain. And so right now, we're really investing and learning about what those changes could be, how we can position to help our customers be more successful in this environment.
Excellent. Well, you're looking ahead and seeing what's happening now, as well as where we're going and where we're going for the future. Tell us a little bit, for those that are watching this that might not know a lot, they've heard a little bit about 3D printing.
Yeah.
And I know for many of us, we saw, okay, cute little toys that were made a few years ago.
Yeah.
Plastic toys for kids, but we're way beyond just that right now. Tell us what kind of activities, what kind of results are we seeing from a business point of view with 3D printing in the industry now?
Yeah. So, we see 3D printing evolving from printing trinkets and models. Right now, the main use for 3D printing and where we're seeing the most demand is in prototypes. So, instead of having to create a mold and to produce a prototype that's very expensive and could take weeks to do, only to throw away as you find out that that prototype isn't going to work and you're going to need to change it. It's a great application to do rapid prototyping.
Yeah, I see. That's really important because one of the ways that we learn best, I see in anything, is that you try and fail fast. Try lots of things that don't work. Too many people will put a lot of time, money, and energy into a given project, and then it doesn't work, and they go, oh, that was a failure. Whereas if we can compress that down where it costs a whole lot less, it's much faster and more realistic. Hey, what a great thing. And that's where 3D printing really sparkles.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, we see that growing, and that's kind of the low-hanging fruit. We don't think it's the end game, though. I think that what you're going to see is 3D printing really moving its way into industrial manufacturing, into getting away from, it's from the cute phase to the, hey, this is a real business. That we're creating parts that are going into things that we're using every day. We're creating finished products. That's where we see it going. And so, some of the big markets that we see is in on-demand parts, as well as prototypes and customized goods. I mean, these are parts of manufacturing that lend themselves very well to 3D printing. And we don't see it, at least in the foreseeable future, taking over a big chunk of manufacturing. But let's put it this way. Everyone would agree that e-commerce has had a serious impact on retail, and we saw it again over this past holiday season. E-commerce is only, depending on who you hear it from, 5 to 8% of total retail. It's still a small part of total retail and having a huge impact on the retail market. If you look at manufacturing and the use cases that I just talked about, if you can foresee that is 5% of manufacturing, that's a $640 billion industry.
Yeah, that's some serious money.
That's some serious money. And so what we're looking at is, what is UPS's role in this new supply chain? And so, excuse me, I'm battling a little bit of head cold, so
that's all right, no problem.
Throat's cracking. But
if we can just get someone to 3D print away all those cold, just get the doctors working on that. And as a matter of fact, I think they are.
Yeah, I think they are too. But my enthusiasm will overcome my throat, so it's no big deal. So what I was saying is that we see that there's a big opportunity here in the industrial use. It's a very big opportunity, and we're trying to figure out how we're going to play. And I think much like the internet in the mid-90s, people can see that it's going to be big, but there's a lot of different business models out there, and not everyone is going to be successful. And timing is going to be key as you're doing investments. And one of the things that we're looking at is, how do we create a somewhat of a shared service so that people can start experimenting and get into 3D printing without having to commit a lot of resources. And it's not too far off to what our current strategy is with the group logistics and distribution that I'm in. Look at the cloud-based technologies on the technology side. Think of a logistics cloud. That's what we're offering today, where we have warehousing capacity and people in place to do different logistics functions on a pay-per-drink basis. Now take that to 3D printing. What we're trying to do with Cloud DDM, which is a company that we invested in, we took their 3D manufacturing capabilities, plopped that in the middle of our supply chain center in Louisville, Kentucky, where they have connection to a global network of transportation. And we're enabling companies to upload their designs and print products just like they were, going onto a retail site to order. You think of Snapfish. You upload your photo and then you have someone else print it and they send it to you. Mm-hmm. Now transfer that to a physical product.
Yes, I think that's amazing. And it also is opening up a lot of possibilities. Those of you watching this, think about it. We're at a real disruption point. Yeah. We've talked about disruption a lot and what's happening there. And what UPS is doing is something that is innovative. It's disrupting, but they're seeing they're probably going to disrupt themselves. So they're learning about it right now. I want you to just kind of watch between the lines on that. And Alan, I have to agree with you. We're seeing that happen. It seems like this also, correct me if I'm wrong, is going to create enormous amount of jobs and opportunities for those who can study it and find out little pockets of opportunity opening up. Where do you see some opportunities for those that are entrepreneurially minded that might want to jump in and get involved in 3D printing?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because like with any disruption, you know, a technology is not disruptive because it's new. Technology is disruptive because it allows people to do something they need to do better than they could before. And whenever you're able to do that, you're going to be creating opportunity, and you're going to be creating jobs. And whether your job is disrupted or not depends on what side of that equation that you're on. The change is coming. Are you going to be the bug or the windshield? We want to be the windshield, right? And we're seeing this disruption. We don't know exactly how it's going to pan out 5 to 10 years from now, but we're trying to get into the game. And for us, like a lot of people, it's both a threat and an opportunity. If I'm able to take from my digital inventory that's housed in a server in Atlanta and print a part in Shanghai, well, that part is not going to need a global express transportation network to take it from Atlanta to Shanghai. You're going to be printing parts closer to the point of consumption. But so we think that it's potentially a threat, but it's also an opportunity. And so let me give you an example of that. So UPS has what's called our service parts logistics business. And this business is really geared towards technology and healthcare companies that have equipment, you know, out in the field that's mission critical, that if it goes down, it has to be brought back up by a service technician in 2, 4, 6 hours. So you have to have parts stored nearby. We have a network of over 1,000 field stocking locations around the world where companies store these parts. So as you might imagine, that's a lot of inventory, right?
Yeah, it sounds like a whole lot of inventory.
Exactly. So can we use this technology for at least part of their inventory, yes, instead of having to store that physically, helping them to store that digitally and print on demand? It's not, at least in the foreseeable future, it's not going to work for all the parts. It's not even going to be economical for all the parts. There are certain ones that don't turn as much. That's kind of low-hanging fruit. And our feeling is, if we can bring that solution to our customers to supplement the traditional logistics solution that we're giving them, we're going to create more solutions, more loyalty from these customers, and more business, and thus create jobs on the UPS side.
Yeah, absolutely. Matter of fact, one of the things I like about that, and I see it, and those of you watching this, think about this. What they're doing, here's UPS. They've got this distribution system. We know them. We love them. They're great in supplying it. But if they define themselves as being in the truck delivery business, they're in trouble. It's the old idea of are we in the transportation business, or are we in the railroad business, et cetera, that Levitt talked to us about.
You got it. It's marketing myopia, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Marketing myopia.
You're looking ahead, and you're disrupting yourself. I think Clay Christensen, you and I were talking before about how we both admire him, the professor up at Harvard.
Yes.
And he sees this is really disruption, and it's not just because it's new. It's because, hey, it's doing something that we didn't do before that, wow, this really enters into, I think in terms of, you would know more about this than I do, what they're doing at the International Space Station. They now have a 3D printer there, because I know UPS is really good, but you don't have a lot of brown trucks running up there every day. But instead, they have a 3D printer with the right kind of goop, whatever that goop is going to be. Is that the technical term for it, Alan? Goop?
It is goop, yes.
Yeah, and they have the goop, and then they just pour that in there, and then they get a software that says to replicate this part that's going bad, or this part over here on the International Space Station that we need to replace, print it this way, and they can do it right there. It seems like that would apply to a lot of remote locations like you were talking about, right?
Right, absolutely. And I think there, and we're already seeing this, I think there are going to be companies that are bringing in their own 3D printers to do some of their production with 3D printers, especially in remote locations. That makes a ton of sense. But when you think about the technology, the multiple materials, not a single 3D printer is not going to be able to print multiple materials. So you have different 3D printers of different sizes, of different quality needs. And so as you look at the larger market, I think while there is going to be an application where companies are going to be bringing in their own 3D printers, I think for the larger market, what we're seeing is they're going to be looking for a on-demand manufacturing pod or center of excellence that's able to do this for multiple materials, multiple sizes, and also importantly, protecting their information, right? Because information about your products in a virtual inventory, it's very, very important that you're protecting that, and that the products that are produced, unlike what we're seeing today with prototypes and models, quality control is going to be absolutely critical.
Yes.
So you're going to want to make sure that whoever you outsource that to, that they understand the quality control procedures and are able to certify that product if it's going into something that your name is on, your brand is on.
Yeah, that makes sense. You want to do that, and you've got much more control over it then when you do it. I'm thinking of opportunities for entrepreneurs that might be able to get, say, an abandoned old warehouse that's just not being used at all. It's in a part of town where there's not a lot of activity, maybe run down a lot, going in there and putting in 3D printers. As the industry develops and grows, I look at it much like, and Alan, I'd like to get your take on this. I think it's much like in the mid to late 70s when we saw personal computers coming out. There were some kids that got into it, this guy named Bill Gates. What's he ever going to do with us? People didn't know about it, didn't care. They were just nerdy kids. Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak got together in a garage and started putting these things together. And those computers were very limited. They couldn't do a lot. But as it started moving, we saw, oh, hey, wait a minute, you could do a spreadsheet here with this. And we're going to develop a little program with software called VisiCalc. And then we're going to develop a little word processing thing here that'll compete, but surely won't compete with the Wang word processors or those that are around and will be here forever. Well, things change. And I think we're in a similar time period with 3D printing. At least I do. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I absolutely think that. And you mentioned my TED Talk. I did a TED Talk on this recently where
very good.
When pigs fly, and the whole thesis around that is that in times of rapid change, when rules change, the impossible becomes possible. That's when pigs begin to fly. And I really feel that we're kind of in that era right now with these emerging technologies. And whether you're a small entrepreneur or a large company, I think the key thing to look at is not to focus so much on the exact technology, because that's going to continue to evolve and change. I think you look at the business model. And what does it enable in new business models, and that's what Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, that's what they really unleashed. Because think about this. So you had these brilliant people in Xerox PARC that are developing all of this very cool technology, including the GUI interface. But their business model really didn't value the GUI interface. Their business model was about, hey, any technology that can help me make copies faster, well, that's where I make money. More copies, more money.
Yeah, they saw themselves in the copy business.
Right. Steve Jobs, he saw the value in it. So he capitalized on the technology, even though he didn't invent it, but he understood the business model.
Exactly. Understanding that business model, I think, is critical. And if I can speculate into the future where we are, and for those of you watching, I want you to kind of watch between the lines, read between the lines, and think kind of outside the box, as we often say. Think about with 3D printing coming. And now we've now seen the prototypes. They actually have printed cars.
Yeah.
3D cars that you can get into, and drive. You drive and ride around in this car. China is manufacturing houses. 3D houses. Couple that with drone technology. Think about manufacturing drones that can handle a human being.
Yeah.
You can have your own helicopter kind of a device that would be there with Internet of Things attached to it. So you've got GPS and we make sure the safety is there. Do you think that might open up some job opportunities? And so I'm thinking, the perennial optimist that I am, I look at it, I think, someone could be laid off in an industry that is kind of getting beat up. We look at oil and the price of oil, and people are lamenting, oh, this is bad. Well, it is bad, and I feel for those that are getting laid off. But I would say after you've laid off, you go home, you have a beverage of your choice to commemorate or to moan about it, whatever.
Right.
Snap out of it, get with it, and look at the opportunities. That's what I'm thinking. Alan, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm right with you. And when you look at there are a lot of big issues, big problems, trends that are happening that are looking for solutions. You think of mass urbanization and globalization and the e-commerce. I mean, there are these trends that are asking for more solutions. And and whether you're talking about drones or autonomous vehicles or 3D printing, these are all potential enablers to solutions to the issues that face us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as we wind this down and wrap it up here, Alan, first of all, I want to thank you very much for joining us and helping us with this, even with your throat going bad, and doing that and hanging in there. You take care of that throat, okay, and do whatever necessary on that. But what we want to do is I want to give those that are watching a chance to kind of, via video here, come into your office. So, if you can pull up a couple chairs there for us, Alan, and have them there, we're going to have them sit around in this, and they're sitting there and they're saying, okay, we're excited. We see 3D printing is going to go some places. It looks like it could be, it's going to do all this. What would you advise them for someone that says, yeah, I want to do something. I want to get a business going. I've got an entrepreneur idea or something. What would they need to do around the idea of 3D printing and other technologies that you think would be most appropriate for today's world?
Yeah. So when you think of 3D printing, think again about why it's important, what the customer use is going to be. It's going to be someone needs to make something, right? And so there's going to be a whole ecosystem around how you leverage these technologies to help people make their something, their widget, better, quicker, less expensively, more customized. And what role can you play in that ecosystem? And what I would advise you is much like what UPS is doing, is get in the game, start experimenting. There are things that UPS is starting to realize that, we're having our V8 moment. Oh, I didn't think about that. Well, if we want to do this, this is a prerequisite. And so those are the things, and it's going to be the quick learners that end up winning. Stay flexible, learn quick, fail fast, and keep your eye on the prize. It's not about the technology. It's about how customers get value out of that, how they can do things that they wanted to do anyway better.
Yes, that makes sense. And so I hope you all got that down. Write that down. If you didn't catch it all, rewind this and write it down. Type it in with your device of choice and look at that, because we see there's some enormous opportunities out there. Yes, we are aware acutely of what's going on in the world, and there's some tough times, but we've got to rise above that. Remember, those tough times of the moment make for really good press for those of us that are journalists and write. We do better with bad news. Step back from that and go, okay, yeah, that's bad. But think about it in your life. Sometimes the best things that happen to you are because something was a setback or there was this disappointment. here's an opportunity. You're seeing into the future when talking with Alan. And I would say, find out how you can get involved in some practical ways. Now, Alan, those that are watching this, those are going to be reading the article in business journals, are going to be saying, yeah, I've got some ideas. They want to get in touch with someone. I know UPS has a number of ways that people can get involved with them, et cetera. If someone says, okay, I want more information, I want to go to the next step, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you, people at UPS, et cetera, to take it to the next level?
Well, actually, the best way would be you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Or you can go through our PR department, and they can get a hold of me.
Very good. Okay, and what's the best way to get in touch with you at LinkedIn?
So I'm on LinkedIn, Alan Amling. So search me and connect with me. Or you can get me on Twitter at Alan4 Logistics.
Alan for Logistics, and Alan is ALAN. Very
Yes.
good. Well, Alan, you are a wonderful guy. We appreciate what you're doing. And by the way, those of you that are watching this, you've got to see his TED Talk about when pigs fly. And all those, it's fun, it's funny, but even more than that, it's very powerful, packed with information. If you've got children that are high school, early college, you definitely want them to see this, to understand where we're going. And by the way, if you're thinking young and you're thinking moving, no matter what age you are, if you're 150, you want to watch that to get some ideas of where we're going in the future. Alan Amling, thank you very much for joining us today. Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And for those of you watching, thanks for joining us. I'm Terry Brock with terrybrock.com and Business Journals, and I will look forward to seeing the developments you have. Let me know how you're doing. Thanks for joining us today.